Wow, happy Monday. Hopefully everyone's having a glorious Monday and everyone had a glorious weekend. But Miss Piggy, Liz Cheney, is going ham against the GOP. Her book must be dropping. It's the only thing I can think of. She's trying to get into the news so she can promote her book. But what am I talking about? Cheney says the GOP House majority in 2025 presents a threat to the U.S. The same House that she was voted out of. Republican Congresswoman Liz Cheney warned that the Republican Party departure from constitutional principles presents a threat if they regain the majority in 2025. Cheney criticized the current House Speaker Mike Johnson, calling him a collaborator in the effort to overturn the 2020 election and the state he should not be Speaker in 2025. Cheney expressed concerns about the U.S. heading towards a dictatorship and advocating for the party to lose its majority in the House to prevent Johnson from influencing the election. That's not all, though. That's not all. I got two stories here. Cheney warns that a vote for Trump may mean the last election you ever get to vote in. Some believe if Donald Trump is reelected, it could be the last election for voters. Well, I think in Florida, only person that shows up in the primaries for the president is Joe Biden in the Democratic primary. Now, tell me how that's not a dictatorship. Tell me how that's not a threat to our democracy when there's two other people trying to be the Democratic primary. You got Joe Biden saying that he's not going to debate because he is running for president. He's already current the president, so he's not going to have debates for the Democratic primaries. Tell me how that's not a dictatorship. Again, Miss Cheney. There's concerns that if Trump returns to the White House, he may attempt to extend his stay beyond his second term. Well, we have laws in place. We have mechanisms in place to prevent that from happening. Liz Cheney, a key Republican on the January 6th committee, lost her re-election bid because she wasn't popular. She was trying to send a message to us that we're not important to her. So, going back to this one, Cheney says the House majority. I have both these stories are from the Hill. Cheney says the GOP House majority in 2025 presents a threat to the U.S. Former Rep. Liz Cheney from Wyoming, once a top-ranking Republican in the House, warns over the weekend that the GOP majority in 2025 presents a threat to the United States. I believe very strongly in those principles and ideas that have defined the Republican Party, but the Republican Party of today has made a choice, and it hasn't chosen the Constitution. You mean the Constitution that says that you don't have power? That part, and I don't think I do think it presents a threat to Republican parties in the majority of 2025. Cheney told CBS Morning News' John Dickerson in an interview that aired on CBS Sunday morning. Cheney has been especially outspoken against former President Donald Trump. Since the January 6, 2021 attacks on the Capitol, she is releasing a book titled Oath and Honor, a memorial and a warning, which she has no honor. I don't think she has honor. Which takes aim at the state of the Republican Party and its response to the attack on the Capitol. Cheney served as vice chair of the House Select Committee that investigated January 6 attacks, which was curated, which didn't show all the evidence, showed just enough evidence to paint a picture that may or may not have been true. She lost her August 2020 primary after becoming a frequent critic of her party and the former president. Dixon noted that Cheney's new book details and how Speaker Mike Johnson who at the time was a little-known congressman, was involved in laying the groundwork for Trump's attempt to overturn the election. You mean the process that every person who loses election has a way to contest the election? Mike Johnson was willing time and again to ignore the ruling of the courts, to know what the state and federal courts have done and said about the elections in the state in order to attempt to do Donald Trump's bidding, she said. Dixon asked what would happen if Johnson was Speaker on January 25th when Congress slated to certify the 2024 presidential elections. He can't be, she says. We're facing a situation with the respect to the 2024 election where existential crisis, and we have to ensure that we do not have a situation where an election that might be thrown into the House of Representatives overseen by a Republican majority. She also warned that the United States is sleepwalking into a dictatorship if Trump is reelected. Once again, Joe Biden, our current president, is not going to be on the debate stage with other Democrats. Not only is he not going to be under the debate stage, there are no debates. He is the one and only candidate that the Democrat Party is going to recognize for the president nomination. There's two other people. And in Florida, during the primary in Florida, only one person is under the ballot. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's Florida. Under the Democratic primary for president, and that is Joe Biden. So tell me, how is electing Trump sleepwalking into a dictatorship? When the current president says, I am the Democratic nominee, and that is it. No questions asked, full stop. I'm running for president. To entertain other possibilities is not going to happen because I am running for president. And of course, on this one, Cheney warns that the vote may mean the last election you'll ever see. Well, you know, According to the Hill by Lauren Safavi. By the way, who wrote the other one? Lauren Savarza. I want to make sure I credit the people. I don't always do it, but I want to make a conscious effort. Let's see here. How long is this one? It's not too long. Former Liz Cheney offered stark warnings Monday for those planning to vote for former President Trump, suggesting it could be the last Democratic election in the United States if the former president returns to the White House. I hope there's an option or an alternatives that reflect the important challenges that we're facing and reflects leadership to meet those challenges. But the choice can never be Donald Trump because a vote for Donald Trump may mean the last election you'll ever get to vote in, she told NBC's Savannah Gothard on Today. It could be that the establishment, the Uniparty, are going to change the rules in 2028 to prevent elections from happening. It won't be Trump. It could be the parties get together and say, here's our candidate. We don't need elections. It's going to be this person, which represents the Uniparty, which I know gets thrown around a lot. I know there's conspiracies behind it that hold no water. But there is a establishment of both Republicans and Democrats that play the part. But when they agree on something, I am truly worried what the outcome is going to be. And again, I don't say that lightly. I think it's heartbreaking that we're where we are, but the people have to recognize that vote for Donald Trump is a vote against the Constitution, she continued. Cheney, a longtime critic of Trump, has been on a media blitz to promote her forthcoming book, Oath and Honor, which I think she has none. A memoir and a warning, which details the state of the Republican Party in response on the attack, blah, 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 blah. I think what she's worried about is the Republican Party is changing. What's changing is the people in the voting base is seeing how the old GOP is acting that's against the will of the voters. And they're electing people that are more aligned with America than globalist corporations that want to go to that wants to control the globe through capitalism, and which is not terrible, not a terrible thing, but they're more. We're electing, or the GOP is electing more American first politicians that are willing to put America policies in place to protect Americans, not going to spend countless dollars invading or paying for Ukraine's war against Russia when there's issues or on the home front that needed to be taken care of, like the border. Where that's how I see it, and she sees that as a change from the elites that have been running Washington for quite some time now. Let's see, she did not rule out a potential 2024 bid for the White House, saying that she will make that decision over the next couple of months. She's running. She's going to attempt to run, and then she's going to get slaughtered in the polls. She may not even make it to the first primary, but I think she's going to run. Not 100% sure on that, though. Cheney served as the vice chair of the House Select Committee, blah, 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 blah. She also said Monday there's no question that Trump would refuse to leave the White House at the end of his second term if re-elected. Once again, we have mechanisms in place. He already attempted to seize power, and we stopped, and he was stopped. How was he stopped? He was elected. Joe Biden was elected. He stepped down, and he made a parade out of it. A circus out of it. Thankfully, for the good of the nation and the republic, she said, but he said he will do it again. He expressed no remorse for what he did. What did he do? He had a public event. From that public event, there was another group of people or groups of people that stormed the Capitol. He was still speaking at this public event when the attacks started. And before he could condemn those attackers, he was kicked off of Twitter. News agencies pretty much refuse. Well, I wouldn't exactly say they refuse, but they were making sure that they were in control of the narrative, not Trump. She added the very, very real threat and concern that Trump will make himself a dictator if he wins the White House. What mechanism can you do to become a dictator? No, being serious. We have Secret Service that will remove him from the White House. We have law enforcement. We have the Capitol Police. We have, I think, the military that would step up and remove him from office if he were to choose to do so. I don't say this lightly, she said, and frankly, it's painful for me as someone, as you know, who spent their whole life in the Republican politics, who grew up as a Republican, to watch what's happening to my party and to watch the extent which Donald Trump himself has, basically determined that the only thing that matters is him, his power, and his success. It almost seems like Liz Cheney is envy of Donald Trump. She's pretty much saying if she was president, this is what she would do, but she's saying it's Trump. She wants the power that Trump had. She wants the power that Joe Biden currently has. She wants to rule the United States. And she's afraid that the Republican Party is moving away from globalism to populism or nationalism and to more to help Americans out opposed to abroad. That they're actually there to help the average Joe, not just a few select elites that want all the resources. And I think that's what we're seeing in the GOP. That's just how I see it, unless someone could point me to evidence otherwise. Now, I'm not saying that the politicians that are being elected are not in it for themselves, but they are. I think they all are. But I think they're making a more of an attempt to have a more domestic policy that benefits all Americans, not just their donor class. And I think that's what she's fearful of. She's fearful that the donor class is losing their power within the GOP, and that's glorious. That's just my opinion. With that being said, Leave a comment down below what your thoughts are. But most importantly, have yourself a wonderful day, morning, or evening.